Hi everyone, it's the EnglishSimmer here, and I think it's about time we stop horsing around and actually take an in-depth look at the brand new gameplay that comes with The Sims 4 Horse Ranch. Big thank you to the EA Creator Network for providing me with this opportunity, for giving me a code. Also, you might have noticed that this thumbnail and title said #ad. I'm not being paid to cover this, it's just that the UK laws when it comes to advertising now say that even a gifted product has to be marked as #ad. I'm not going to give this disclaimer every single time, but because this is the first video, I thought we would just cover it. This build also wasn't finalized, so hopefully any glitches, bugs, issues that I ran into throughout early access will be fixed on release. Obviously, I will be doing a follow-up video throughout all my Let's Plays to let you know how that is going. We are going to take an in-depth look at all the gameplay, things that you need to know, so you can actually make your mind up as to whether this pack is for you or not. I feel as if it's only fair to start off with what is the main gameplay of this pack, and that is of course horses. It's where most of the budget went and also where most of the gameplay budget went, because I'm gonna be real, the rest of the pack I do feel like we are gonna fly through. We are gonna be jumping over those advanced jumps so quickly. My agility skill is gonna be 10 in no time. So how do you go about getting a horse? You can obviously either create one in Create a Sim. Here it has all the same tools as cats and dogs and werewolves, so you can spray paint. It's a very expensive create a pet tool, however it's pretty much the same as like cats and dogs, so if you're used to that then you'll know how it goes with horses. You can choose to rescue them. You can do that either by clicking on the equestrian center in town or on one of the boards that you will see around town, or that you can also purchase and put on your lot. I would highly suggest getting one of those boards, especially when you're first starting out, because it's just basically an information board. You can also buy a horse the same way. You can choose to adopt from a bunch of different horses. They have all the different ages, so you'll have some foals, you'll have some regular age ones, and then you'll have some elders, and you'll also have a mix between female and male horses. However, do keep in mind, if you do rescue a horse, they are likely to have the more negative traits of horses, so some of them might be fearful, some of them might be quite mean and like temperamental, so definitely just like have a look and see what you think you'll be able to actually work with. If you don't want to work with like negative traits too much, I would suggest just making one in Create a Sim. And what can you actually do with the horses? So you can take them out for rides. This will actually get up your endurance skill as you are riding. It will also get up your Sim's horse riding skill, which is a level 10 skill. All of the horse skills are also level 10, and they have actually mapped out this world with like a fair few trails. It does feel a little bit expansive like the first few times that you do it. They probably will start using the same routes the more often you do it, so you'll probably get used to seeing a bunch of things. I would say Galloping Gulch personally was my most favorite place to explore. The other suburbs just like didn't really have a lot going on. Dotted around these trails are either toilets that you can actually go to and relieve yourself, or there are pea bushes, as I'm sure we're all used to, that you can also woohoo in. That is the only new form of woohoo if you don't count like horse breeding. And they did also include a sleeping mat, which is basically just a rip of growing together. You can take it out with you, you can sleep under the stars if you want to, which I do quite like because it does feel like you can explore a little bit. Horses actually have the ability to learn 4 skills. Endurance, which we've already talked about, you basically build that up just by riding your horse around. Riding intensely will raise that quicker, and then you can also do a relaxed ride and you can do an energetic ride. They have the temperament skill, which is how they sort of behave. This is actually the most interesting because it is all to do with socialization between your sim and their horse. It is definitely the hardest to get up because you just have to socialize an awful lot with them. However, it has the best effects, so you can kind of have different conversations with them, and as they learn to have like a better temperament, they can actually help with your sim's emotions. So they can kind of calm your sim down when they're angry, they can make them less sad. I feel like this is what the team were getting at when they said they had like Native American gameplay woven in, because Stacy Partial Jensen actually quoted, "Indigenous people have always had a deep spiritual relationship with horses," and I think that that's where they were kind of drawing that in from, a very healing aspect of horses and like living with horses. It's not as much Native American representation as I personally would have liked to see. I definitely think people are going to be disappointed with that aspect of this pack. And then they have the agility skill, which is increased by practicing barrel racing. Once you reach a certain point in both agility and jumping, which is obviously increased by jumping with your horse, you can actually do like advanced training. You can also do intense training, which will wear your horse out more, but will actually increase the skills at a higher rate. Which, speaking of, to see your horse's needs, you actually just hover over the horse and it will pop up above them. They have 5 different needs. Those are socialization, energy, fun, hunger, and hygiene. You can have your sim actually clean your horse's hooves and also brush them to get up their hygiene. The energy, they'll kind of just take themselves off to their horse bed. Make sure you put a horse bed down somewhere. You can build your own stables, so stables are fully customizable. You can assign different horse beds to different horses. You technically don't have to muck out your horses. However, their beds will get dirty. The first time I saw this, I thought it was unicorns. I thought that my horse was magically turning into a unicorn because it was like the green aura that The Sims 3 used to have when there was a unicorn around. However, it just meant that its bed was smelly. So when they woke up in the morning, you can then choose to clean their bed, and that will actually degrade over time. So make sure you just keep an eye on it. You don't get poop from that. However, poop can happen. They can poo around your ranch. You can choose to throw it away or you can choose to put it in your inventory. It is very helpful for actually fertilizing your crops. The way that dog poop is very good in cats and dogs. There are 3 different versions of them. There's poor quality, normal quality, and outstanding. Obviously, outstanding will increase your plant's quality a little bit more than normal and poor. So if you are into nectar making and you have a garden, take advantage of them in yours. Socialization is basically just by talking to them. Please don't be mean to your horses. There are a couple of mean interactions, but there's not that many. I'm fairly sure it's just like yell at them and then also shoo them. I didn't really do any mean interactions, so I'm not that well up on them. To get them to eat, you can just call them over to the food trough and they will start to consume either the hay that you filled it with or the prairie grass that you can put in it as well. Make sure that your food troughs are always replenished because they will actually go down. They can hold 8 meals. I would definitely suggest getting multiple of them, especially if you have multiple horses, because they will deplete quite quickly. You'll definitely be able to tell when they're empty because the hay will actually go down like as you're playing. And unfortunately, there's really not many ways to get up their fun. The only option actually is to buy one of the balls and then tell your horse to go play with the ball. Considering we can't actually play as the horses, you can't control them, you can't click on them in the sim bar. You basically have to get your sim to tell them to do things or be on your horse and direct them that way to have them do plenty of interactions, which definitely brings about slight issues about routing. I definitely saw my horses walking around in circles a fair bit, and sometimes they didn't take care of their needs even though they were low. I will say they're very good at going to sleep. That's the one thing where I really didn't have to worry about it too much. I knew they would automatically do it. I definitely recommend you check their fun though, because I feel like that was the one that even though it didn't deplete that fast, they just kind of wouldn't really take care of it all that often. And of course, because you can't actually play as those horses, how do you see any of the skills that we have talked about? It's all hidden in your Sims relationship panel. Click on the horse that you want to check out and there will be listed how their skills are getting on, any sentiments that your horse may have for your sim or your sim may have for your horse. They can get sentiments, however, I'm fairly sure throughout my playthrough I only got 1, which was really, really unfortunate. I didn't even get a sentiment from my horse passing away, which by the way, I will give a content warning for that when it appears in this video. Sentiments were a little bit of a letdown. I just got one that said champion when we managed to master a competition. Horse competitions, again, something that's not quite as fun as it was in The Sims 3. I was gonna say pretty similar, but it's only similar in the sense that it is a rabbit hole. You can attend a competition either by clicking the info board or by traveling to town and then clicking on the equestrian center. The equestrian center is just a rabbit hole. Don't expect anything. You will hear a commentator every so often if you are hovering around. They actually have 5 different competitions, which I think is pretty cool. They have barrel racing, jumping, endurance, western Western and Ultimate Championship. And when you actually click to enter one of these contests, there are actually 4 different classes that you can enter on, and each of these different classes has a skill set that your horse and also your rider should probably have before they actually enter the competition, because obviously if they have these skills and they have a little check mark next to them, that means you are more likely of winning that. You actually have to go one by one, so you have to start in beginner, and then once you've won that specific discipline in beginner, you then unlock the intermediate. After you've done intermediate, you unlock expert, and then you unlock master once you've completed all the others. However, it's not like The Sims 3. You can't choose how your sim performs. You don't get to see how you compare against others. You basically either disappear off lot if you do it through the board on your own lot, or if you do it through the equestrian center, your sim and your horse will just disappear into there, and then you don't receive anything until it finishes, and then you got a pop-up telling you where you placed. You actually do get some money if you came 3rd, 2nd, or 1st. I actually placed every single time. Yes, there were some times where I got a bronze, where I was kind of expecting myself to come 1st, but I don't know if you can actually fail, because like I said, I was just too talented. And then once you've actually completed the master ranking in all 4 disciplines of barrel jumping, endurance, and Western pleasure, you can then go for the Ultimate Championship. I personally didn't do this. I didn't want to do it. Also, I didn't get my horse's skills up enough to be able to do it in early access, and I kind of want to obviously explore it all when it comes to my Let's Play. Also, I will say, trying to figure out the cheats for horses, you need the sim ID, and it suffers the same fate of any of those cheats where you have to have a name. If it gives you 2 names as the first name, the cheat very likely isn't gonna work, at least from what I could figure out. If you place, you then get a plaque, so you get a bronze, silver, or a gold plaque that you can either hang up on your sim's wall, or you can actually put them on an item that we will get into. If you can't find them in your Sim's personal inventory, go into your household inventory, because some of mine spawned in there for some reason. And do keep in mind, if you are wanting to grind out the horse competitions, horses can only enter 1 competition a day. However, Sims can actually enter as many as they want, as long as they are doing it on a different horse. Also, before you enter a competition, just double check which horse is actually applied on the competition menu, because sometimes it would default to the horse that wasn't as talented as my other one, and so I had to keep going in and changing it. How does horse breeding in this game work, I hear you ask? Well, when mummy horse meets daddy horse. So you have to have horses of opposite genders. You have to have 2. You have to have a male and you have to have a female, a mare and a stallion, and then you can actually click on the horse and then go around on the social menu to encourage to. You can actually have a horse interact with a different sim or a different horse, or you can encourage them to breed with another horse. I did this the first time around. I thought my horses had done it because they kind of nuzzled against each other. Oh, how I was in the wrong. I was waiting for that pregnancy pop-up and it never ever came. However, when I redid it and I re-encourage them to breed, it happens straight away. You will know when it happens. Basically, love hearts form around both of the horses as they nuzzle. It looks like the woohoo hearts that we are all used to seeing. Once that animation has played out, you'll probably get a pop-up saying that your mare is pregnant. You actually can't ride your mare whilst they are pregnant. You can't enter any competitions or anything like that, but they aren't pregnant for very long. I think mine was 2 or 3 days, and I was playing on a normal lifespan. There's no animation for horses giving birth or anything like that. You can't help them through it. It's not that in depth. They just kind of get uncomfortable, and they will definitely buck and neigh a lot. You will get a notification that will tell you that your horse is in labor. I basically just interacted with her. I whispered to her. I rubbed her neck, just basically let her know that I was there. And then boom, you get the pop-up kind of like you do when a baby is born of what would you like to call this brand new foal. You can either randomize the name, you can type in the name that you want, and then you will have a little foal in your family and also on your ranch, which is so cute. The foals are actually adorable. You can kind of do all the same things with them. You obviously can't ride them. Toddlers can't ride them. Kids can't ride them. Nobody can ride the foals, which makes sense because their animation is adorable. The first few days that they're alive, they're very, very wobbly. So they'll kind of like fall over their own feet and like tumble a little bit, and then they'll do like the, you know, skating horse thing where like all four legs like shoot out to the side to hold themselves up. And then all of a sudden one day my foal just decided to find its feet and it started running across my ranch. He was zooming. Which, speaking of, genetics can be passed down to your foals. Those include both physical aspects of your horses. Mine definitely looked more like my mare. However, it had the darker mane of its dad. And then traits are also passed down. So unfortunately, the mare was a rescue, so she had pretty negative traits, and 2 of those got passed down to the foal. However, the foal was also intelligent because of the father that I had created in EnglishSimmer, and foals can also have breeding traits. I only got 1 of them. They're not actually available within EnglishSimmer. You can't choose them even when you do create a foal in EnglishSimmer, which is slightly disappointing. However, mine turned out to be curious, which basically meant that he was very into exploring and like checking out the different activities. He was basically obsessed with barrel racing. Once he had aged up into an adult, he just wanted to barrel race all of the time. I constantly had to fix my barrels, which, by the way, if your horse fails at a jump or if they accidentally knock over a barrel, you can choose to fix the jump or the barrel. You can do this either sat on your horse or you can dismount it and then fix it. The only real difference when it comes to foals is the fact that you have to bottle feed them instead of them actually eating like solid food. So make sure you just keep that in mind. They are a little bit more hands-on than their parents. When they reach a temperament level 4, they can actually start eating solid foods. You can actually practice hand feeding them. So if you do have prairie grass or an apple or something that horses can eat in your inventory, if they are hungry, you will have the option to like practice hand feeding. Also, just a note, horses don't get thirsty in this game. So if you're worried about that, don't feel like you need to. The water troughs are literally just for decoration. They can actually use the water troughs and also call a horse over to drink from the trough, but it doesn't actually have anything to do with any needs. Because they don't have a thirst need, they unfortunately can't drink from rivers. They also cannot swim, so don't try it. Your horses can't swim. They didn't animate it. It's not a thing that's in the game. There is a swimmable area in this world in Galloping Gulch, but horses cannot swim. You can ride horses around in other worlds. However, I will say it's a little bit lackluster. It pretty much just uses the same pavement routing as going for a jog does. You can obviously be on your horse and then direct them to different places. So if you do want to go down to, say, for example, the river in Willow Creek, you can get there. I did also notice a ton of clipping when I tested this because obviously the base game worlds weren't really built with horses in mind. So it's understandable that it happens. That's definitely when I found horses to be at their glitchiest, when it came to maneuvers, routing, and horses can pass away. Unfortunately, there is no cross-pack compatibility between the vet career if you have cats and dogs and horses. They cannot get sick at all, which for all you horse lovers, I'm sure that is a good thing. But I wanted to let you know, I am gonna put in a clip here of a horse dying. In case you do want to skip ahead, I'll put a timestamp down below. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but they pretty much just look like they're going to sleep, and then Grim Reaper comes, and that is that. You do get your own special gravestone. If you actually strengthen their connection to the physical world and mourn them, they can come back as a ghost, just like regular Sims can. And ghost horses pretty much aren't any different to regular horses. You can still ride them, they can still learn their skills, you can actually still even enter them in competitions. As we know, kids can learn the horse riding skill. They just have it like from the get-go. They can just get on a horse. You don't need to teach them or anything, which I kind of wish that you could give kids lessons. It will actually get up their motor skill very, very quickly whilst they are riding, and then the horse riding skill progresses at a slower rate, which is quite nice, but they can still get a head start. The only things that kids can't do with horses is actually clean their hooves, brush them, do any of the jumping or the barrel racing with them, but they can ride them around, and then they can also hand feed them, hug them. So it's pretty much like adults with a couple of restrictions. Toddlers can only babble with horses that I am aware of. Unicorns aren't real. It is just an accessory. You click on the horse's head whilst you are in Create a Sim, and there you can apply a horn. There is a sparkle around it, but unicorns are no different from any other horse. They don't have any magic. It is just an accessory. First new aspiration in this pack obviously pertains to horse riding. It's called the Championship Rider. Both aspirations actually only have one stage. It feels very Sims 3, which I actually quite like. They are pretty difficult. You'll definitely be able to complete them if you are like heavy set on this pack and like playing it an awful lot. You need to reach level 10 in the horse riding skill, which is actually super easy to do. You have to enter 15 competitions. You actually have to get gold 5 times over in the master level of any discipline. Finally, once you have achieved master in everything, you can enter the ultimate championship. It definitely like makes sense for the Sims who are gonna have that aspiration. I feel like they are gonna be horse lovers, which by the way, that is a new trait. And we also have rancher as the 2 new traits. Horse riding is also a like or a dislike in the hobby section alongside nectar making. Kids can also be horse lovers. Of course, along with horses, we get the introduction of 2 new animals. We get mini sheep and we get mini goats. You can either buy these from the animal exchange, by the board, or by ringing the animal exchange, or the grocery shop that is in town. When you buy these, they will actually spawn in your Sims inventory. Make sure you head there, make sure you place them in the world. You can actually place them anywhere so they can free roam around your ranch, which I personally really like. If you don't like that option, you can build a fence, and then gates actually have the option to keep in like all mini animals. I will say that was a little bit glitchy for me though, so it might not always work, which is very unfortunate if you do want to keep them all in one place. The only needs that these guys have is that they need to be socialized with, they need to be fed, so you can actually bottle feed them, which is very cute, or you can place down one of the hay troughs and they'll just like go over and eat the like fallen out hay off the floor. So if you want to be a bit more hands off, you can be. And you will also need to clean them. They will start getting dirty. They will have green smog around them. So you can just give them a brush and that will clean them right up. If you only have horse ranch, you can share the sheep for simoleons. It's like very few simoleons. I think the highest that I got was about 60 simoleons, and then you can milk your goats. However, if you have cottage living, it is confirmed there is cross-pack compatibility, so you can actually share them for wool and you can also milk them for milk, and those are ingredients that you can then use if you have nifty knitting. Your wool is reduced and you can use it within cooking. You can hug them, you can scare them, you can tell them jokes. They can run away, so make sure you keep their needs up. I will say you get about 6 notifications, or at least I did, before they ran away. Also, if you leave them in your inventory for too long and they're feeling gross, they can run away from your inventory. However, they will come back after the first time they ran away, and then it will threaten that they will run away forever. And also, if you have a good relationship, you can ask them to help out around the ranch, which means that they will help with the garden. If you are a nectar maker, you will need a garden, and they can eat weeds, and they can also eat the bugs that fly around your plants. Basically, the same way that rabbits work if you have cottage living. Kids and toddlers can also interact with the minis. They're very similar to rabbits and chickens. What you're used to seeing with those animals, you can kind of expect with mini sheep and mini goats. And then one of my favorite things to return to The Sims 4, we have nectar making. This is a way to earn a lot of money in this pack. It's a 5-level skill. There aren't actually any books about it, so the only way to really learn this skill is to get nectar making. It took a really long time for my sim to be a level 5, but as you go up in your skill, you unlock different recipes and they will have different effects. For example, the strawberry nectar can make your sims flirty. The energy nectar obviously makes your sims feel very energized, and there is in fact a secret recipe that's not so secret because it's actually available like to see for everyone from the get-go. You do need level 5 to make it, and if you don't actually talk to someone to unlock it, you will never unlock it, and that is vitality nectar. We got the nectar racks. These are actually stackable, which is so nice. I tended to have like 3 in a row because I wanted the lightly aged nectar in the first one, then I wanted the moderately aged nectar in the second, and then I wanted the like perfectly fine aged nectar in the last one. As they age, they will will go up in value. Obviously, high level ones also are more valuable. I swear I got like a fine aged vitality one and it was worth 17,000 simoleons. It was wild. I'm fairly sure nectar can just age in your Sim's inventory if you leave it in there, but it will actually age more quickly if you have it in a rack. And then if you have those rack then stored in a basement, it will age even faster. So if you want to speed up the process, just dedicate a basement to it. It's pretty realistic. You can either just sell these through your inventory, which is a little bit boring. I have to admit, I wish you could like sell it to the local bar and that's how you got your income. Or if you have a pack that has a selling table, for example, City Living, Eco Lifestyle, I'm assuming you can probably sell it on those and then also upsell it for even more money. Or you can find one mysterious townie around the town, and that is Roberto Crinkletop. He will basically have a pop-up in certain neighborhoods. So I went to the bar at one point and I got a notification from Roberto being like, hey, nectar makers, if you have any nectar to sell, it's high in demand, so sell it to me and I'll offer a bit more money. Get to know him and then start selling him your nectar because he will give you a little bit of a higher price, but he is quite hard to come by. And then when you ask him about his life, he's like, oh, you don't want to know that about me. Basically, man is living forever. He is never going away, and that's because of his secret family source. Sorry, I mean his nectar. He does have the source though, I will say. He reminds me of Gidry, and oh my word, I get flustered around him. But he can teach you the recipe for the vitality nectar. He was, of course, the Sim in the trailer who gave some nectar to a ghost and she came back from the dead. Unfortunately, didn't get to test that theory. I didn't kill anyone off, but I did have my Sim drink this vitality nectar whilst he was alive, and it did take a couple of days off his age. Speaking of, I actually drank all 4 servings and my Sim got dazed and then passed out. You also get a milestone from that, so they will remember it forever. You're welcome. If you have a snob Sim and they see you drinking like straight from the bottle and not pouring it out into a nectar glass, they will act absolutely mortified. I will say when you first start making nectar, click on the object and go on like purchase basic ingredients and it will give you the options for most of the nectars that you can then make, which is really, really nice. I would definitely say just like buy 5 of each, get a little garden going. However, I will say I do wish there was more nectar. I feel like there's not that many different versions of it, and nectar making is where the second aspiration comes in. So this Sim wants to be an expert nectar maker. They need to reach level 5 in the nectar making skill. Is difficult. Like, it takes a long time. It's just waking up and putting the dogs in grape juice. You have to create 50 excellent bottles, which, oh my word, to get excellent, you have to basically have really, really good produce from the get-go. And then you also are going to have to be pretty high skill level of the nectar skill to actually get those bottles. I feel like this one is the much harder aspiration of the two, and then earn 100,000 from selling nectar, which is very simple. It's going to be the 50 excellent bottles that's going to make you want to cry. Your nectar is going to taste of tears. For the events, we have Animal Day and we also have Ranch Gathering. What I love about them is that they have an open invite. You don't have to be friends with someone to invite them over. You can basically just choose random Sims from the community, and oh my word, I'm so glad. Open invitation is exactly what I flipping wanted. However, it is only these 2 events. I did try it with a base game birthday party. Wasn't the case, which I know birthday parties are like a little bit more personal, but come on, Sims team, just apply it for every single event. But Animal Day, you basically invite over members from the community and have them interact with your animals. I will say, don't do it with just 1 or 2 mini sheep or goat. Get like at least 4 or 5 of each, because my guests were just obsessed with these animals. Like, they were doing all the interactions with them, which some of the goals needed like the guests to interact with them or like watch them do something, but then my Sim really struggled to like interact with them, which was also needed because like I needed to perform tricks and stuff in front of people. It's very spammy. It's basically the same things over and over again. It's just like Sims interacting with the baby animals, which is like fine. It's cute, especially especially if you want to have like a petting zoo type thing. And especially after growing together events, it feels extremely lackluster. I will say I got a silver in the event and I got 450 simoleons. The better you get, the more money you actually receive for like your household funds. It's like it's a donation to the ranch. And then for the ranch gathering, that's basically just a party. It's a celebration of a lot of things that came with this pack. So you can like grill food, you can drink nectar, you can craft nectar for some of the goals, and basically just like cowpoke dancing. Ranch hands do exactly what they say on the tin, or at least I hope they do on official release, because they are meant to act as an extra pair of hands on your ranch for when you need them. I find them especially helpful when it comes to the mini animals, because they're so small that I do sometimes forget about them. You can hire a ranch hand either through the board or a phone or a computer. The board is your savior. Please buy a board, I'm telling you. They work like a maid. They have an hourly rate and then they'll show up on your ranch and basically help take care of things. You can assign different tasks to them. If you don't want them to do certain things, you can turn it off. So they will offer to help with the gardening and harvest things. They will offer to fix things up around your home, and they will also offer to look after your animals, which includes the minis and also the horses. They can also pick up poop if you allow them to do that. However, I will say mine were just very, very buggy. Whenever I hired one, they would show up for like 2 days and then they would just disappear and I would never see them again. And then I would try to hire a new one and it would be a completely different sim, and then I would also lose them. So hopefully on release that is fixed. We do of course get a new locked challenge in this pack, which is quite exciting, although I will say I did not reap the benefits of it whatsoever, because I felt like the horses and the mini animals were actually eating a lot of my prairie grass. The lot that I was living on, which was like the big ranch in Galloping Gulch, had the prairie grass lot trait, and basically that means that prairie grass can grow wild and it can like, I think, start to overtake your farm. They were always like grazing on it, or I would have my sim go out and actually harvest the prairie grass to then feed the horses so that I didn't have to spend 30 simoleons every single time I wanted to refill their food. You can also use prairie grass for nectar. You can also send your horses to search in it and they will find certain things. I will say when I was harvesting or when I had my horses search it, I was basically getting nectars. There were a couple of other things that I found like here or there, but it was mainly nectar and then harvestables. I do want to talk a little bit about the town. Obviously, we get a nightclub, which is like the dance hall, and then we get a bar, and we also get a park where you can basically train your horses and have them practice. Here, you will get pop-ups from some of the townies, so you'll get a pop-up from Sienna, really whenever you travel, just reminding you that the equestrian center is open from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. You can actually send your horses to get trained at the equestrian center. You can also do that on the board. Lol, bet you weren't expecting that one. Send your horses into a rabbit hole and then they will come back and they will have learned a slight percentage of a skill. It is a rabbit hole. You can't view anything here. If you spectate a competition, your sim will just go into it and you won't be able to see anything. There is the little semicircle on the end where you can actually practice your jumping and barrel racing, but that is it. You can't witness anything inside. You can enter competitions, you can buy and rescue horses, you can choose to train your horses, you can choose to sell your horses here, and you can spectate. But there are 2 other rabbit holes in this area. So if you go down Main Street, on the right hand side, it usually was, if you're facing the bar, I think. I'm trying to recall from memory here, alright? There is a shop that has clothes in the windows. You guessed it, it's a clothes shop. You can't actually buy stuff here, which I kind of wish that they took the thrifty stuff and like added it so that you could maybe in the options menu like turn on I want to buy clothes, and then you actually like have to unlock your create a sim catalog. But here your sims just like go into this shop. It's again a rabbit hole, so they'll disappear and it will either take you into create a sim if you chose to plan your outfits, or you can also just change your outfit here, which will bring up the change outfit. And then there is also the food shop or the grocery store, if that's what you want to call it. It has some vegetables out the front. If you click this, again, it's another rabbit hole, but you can buy certain things here. So you can buy produce. You can also buy an age up treat. So if you want to age up your foal straight away into an adult horse, you can also buy ingredients. You can buy some books. And once again, you can buy sheep and goats here, as if there weren't already enough options. Do keep in mind though, all the rabbit holes are open from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. I know I've bloody nattered on about this fecking board, but buy one. Here you can choose to go through the animal exchange where you can get those sheeps and goats again. It has a bunch of info about like townies or like horses and all of those things. You can hire a ranch hand here. You can learn about events here. You can enter competitions on it. However, the most important thing about this board is this is where the community will post their community jobs. I'm going to tell you the bad news right now. They do not work like errands in cottage living. They are not as good. They are not as hands-on. They are, in fact, another rabbit hole. The expansion pack of Rabbit Hole Dreams. They're rabbit holes that are based on skills. The higher skills that you have like necessary for the job, the higher you will get paid. On average, they're anywhere between like 100 and 400 simoleons. You can apparently teach kids to horse ride, which isn't actually an interaction that is in the game, unfortunately. But you can choose to go into a rabbit hole and do it if you want to. You can also use your horse as transport. You can also send your sheep and goats on little missions to actually cut neighbors' grass, but like I said, this is all rabbit hole. Your sim, the horse, the goats will all just go off lot. Also, these do not change. They're not rotational. It'll kind of just be the same community jobs every single time. Honestly, one of the most lackluster community elements I think we've had in a really long time. If you are on a little trot through Galloping Gulch, head on over to Don's house and you'll probably see like a creek. You'll see a river running through a valley. Follow the river and then slightly hidden behind the trees, you will find Dreadhorse Cavern. It's a quirky little thing. I feel like the team had some fun with it. It is another rabbit hole. I know everything is a rabbit hole in this pack. I'm telling you, horses is the main gameplay and they weren't joking when they said it. But if you enter this cavern, you will basically get pop-ups. They work kind of like Jungle Adventure, where you have to do a choice-based thing, but it's more like D&D. If you've played Life is Strange True Colors, it's a bit like that scene. But you can either choose to attack and take off some of your enemy's health, or you can choose to defend yourself and heal yourself up a little bit. You do have health points for your sim, and you also have health points for your enemies. I quite like the sound design on it, and you will get some loot once you actually complete some of these steps. So I was really finding that I was getting a lot of gnomes, which isn't the most interesting loot in the world, I will say. So each step counts as like 25 levels. They sort of remind me of the Stardew caves, but obviously without any of like going in there and actually doing the hand-to-hand combat. I don't actually know how many stages there are. I think I got to stage 3. I will say the last stage, like level 75 to 100, is the most fun because it's sort of like a riddle that you have to figure out. I'll include the first one here, but I don't want to spoil it too much. I didn't do a lot of these because I kind of wanted to explore this myself. Once you've done it once, I feel like you're never really going to do it again because everything will be the same. I played through the first like 200 steps, which was technically like the first 8, and it already felt like it was getting repetitive. We do get a dance floor and they can do the cowpoke dance. You don't have to do this on a dance floor though. You can just choose to cowpoke dance in front of a radio, which I quite like. You can choose to cowpoke dance in a group, so that's like the big scene that we saw in the trailers, the pop it, lock it, polka dot it. There are new drinks in the bar, so a lot of the nectars are available. Keep in mind, strawberry means flirty. I had my sim buy a strawberry one and then they flirted with someone and ruined their whole entire marriage, and they hated each other for the rest of my playthrough, which then meant we went on to make a nectar that was called Revenge is Sweet. It was the most expensive nectar that I had, and I had him drink it from the bottle in front of his lover who had cheated on him and who was also a nectar maker, just to disrespect him so he couldn't sell it. I know. Immature, but I liked it. There are a couple new recipes. We obviously get a new grill in this expansion and they are available on the grill. So you can make pan de campo, you can make bison stew, and then in the base game update, we obviously got Three Sisters chili. And then the object that I was talking about where you can actually hang up your plaques if you don't want to just have them like chilling on the wall of your houses, there is a ranch sign, and this is kind of a buildable object in a sense. A lot of the wall decoration decorations can actually be put on it. It already has slots available on the actual gate itself. You can choose to name your ranch if you want to. But as you progress through your horse riding skill and also your horse's own skills, once you reach level 10 in any of those, it will unlock a specific signage, which you can then put onto your ranch sign. And obviously, as you unlock the plaques and you get better and better in the competitions and place higher and higher, you can then also hang those plaques onto your ranch sign if you just want to be a show off and basically let people know that you are a professional first and foremost. And there we have it. There's the gameplay included with the Sims 4 Horse Ranch. I hope this video was helpful. I hope it was a good overview just to let you know what you get in this pack. If it is going to interest you, if it's going to disappoint you, that is fully for you to decide. Like I said, I did get early access through the EA Creator Network so that I could make these videos for you. I'm hopefully going to have a Creator Sim overview up in a couple of hours after this one goes live, but I have to say it literally feels like I've fallen off a horse. My wrist is so sore. I think I have repetitive strain from recording and editing and putting all of this together, so hopefully I will have more videos up. If you do have any questions, if I did miss anything off that you were maybe wanting me to talk about, definitely leave your questions in the comments down below and I will try and get back to as many of you as possible if I know the answer. Obviously, we only had base game installed with this one, so I couldn't really check out cross-pack functionality or anything like that. Hopefully gonna check that out this weekend if everything goes according to plan. I appreciate you all and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.